For today's episode, we have a very special guest who's been in sales for decades. So stay tuned to hear about how sales has changed and the things that have stayed the same. All right, so we have another episode, a very special one of SquadTalks over coffee. I'm gonna have to change the name because there's really not any coffee represented right now, but it's special because my special guest is my husband, Grant Peterson. And so I'm Alea Peterson. If you've watched any of our episodes before, I've been on several of them. I'm the VP of Marketing here. My husband does not work here, although we have a few people who have spouses here or have in the past. That's not our case. So tell others what you do right now.
So I'm a real estate agent at Homepage Realty. I got into the real estate game in 2018. Prior to that, I owned my own business, and I help people buy and sell their homes.
Simple as that. That's a good mission. So I'm actually going to shift us real fast because this episode is turned into how well do you know your wife? Question number 1. Just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding.
It's like, oh, geez.
So moving on into not just what you do, but like very much a part of your career, from as I know it, has been all things sales. And so, I've always said too to people, like, my husband's really good at sales. Like, he has that in his DNA. You've held different titles where in the past, not as much now, but in the past I could literally say, you're a sales rep or sales in some way. It was part of your title. But I want to hear, because I've not even heard all the details, one of your first jobs was in sales. Can you tell me about what that was like?
Yeah, that was a fun job. So I can say this now because Radio Shack is out of business, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think, cross my fingers, I don't think there's any lawsuits that could happen, but they actually hired me before I was 18, so I was like 17 and a half. You're supposed to be 18, but a buddy of mine named Andrew got me the job, and I worked in the St. Matthew's store, and I had this amazing manager named Rory. He taught me everything up to that point about sales, and so he was really good at it. He was an extremely heavy coffee drinker. I do remember that. He always smelled like coffee no matter what time of day it was. It's really strange.
That's fitting here. We are all about coffee here.
But he was an excellent mentor in that industry. For those of you that don't know, Radio Shack was a place you used to go and you'd buy fuses and capacitors and transistors and radios and
remote control cars.
Yeah, remote control cars. Yeah, like all the stuff that, is just bygone era stuff. Yeah, it's just all electronic stuff. And I remember walking into the store my first day and being so nervous. Like, even though I'd been through training, like people had, I'd shadowed people, I was just a kid, man. I was like really, really nervous about like, how do I do this, right?
What were you supposed to be doing?
Just helping people. So they'd walk in the door and they'd say, I'd ask them, hey, what brings you in today? And kind of an open-ended question, right? I wouldn't say, hey, how you doing? I'd say, hey, how can I help you? And what brings you in today? And so a lot of times people would come in and say, I need a battery for my home phone, right? My wireless home phone. But other days, people would come in and say, I need a new cell phone, or I want to add somebody to my cell phone plan or whatever. And so every day was different. And I remember that was one of the things I loved. Sales is always somebody different coming in for a different reason and
different needs.
There was no monotony about it. And so to me, I quickly fell in love with the fact that every day's different, every person's different, and every transaction's different. So that was really, really cool. What I do remember about those days is that I didn't get paid a lot of money for what I was doing.
Did you make commission though when you would help? a
Yeah,
customer
so
make a
they
purchase?
actually called them spiffs. Now I don't know where that name came from, but if you sold a certain amount of batteries, you made a certain amount of money, and if you sold this sort of thing or that sort
Higher
of thing,
level of money
yeah,
for-
there was like different tiers of things. It was kind of like it was odd, but
Like Shroot Bucks or
yeah,
fake
Shroot Bucks.
money.
There you go, Shroot
different
Bucks.
representative symbols.
No, it was real money, but
In the end.
in the end. But I do remember, like, I didn't really care about the money. I just cared about doing my job well, and did I make that person happy? And I think what I learned early on at Radio Shack was people would come in to see two people at that store. They would come in to see Rory, and they would come in to see this guy, Kenny, I can't remember his last name, maybe Martin or something like that, Marshall. But they would literally come in and ask for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that perplexed me. I was like, even at 17 and a half and eventually 18, I was like, why are these people coming in and asking for these guys? What's so different about what they do? And so I started to pay attention, and what I noticed was they just had a conversation with every single person that walked in. It was very like informal, very friendly. There was nothing about it that was salesy, quote unquote, like I'm trying to sell you something. It was like, what do you need? How can I help you? How are your grandkids
They made a
doing?
connection.
Yeah, they just talked to them, and I quickly learned like that's it. Like that's what it takes to be successful is that very, very personal relationship that you can create with someone, even though they just walked in and you've never met them in your life.
Yeah, and so quick second here to kind of talk about one reason I invited my husband. We're doing a sales series right now with these episodes, and kind of talking about that. Actually, we recognized even a few years ago, maybe from our existence even, that we can't talk about marketing without talking about selling, or in general business development, like growing your business, closing a deal, earning new revenue, making customers happy, like actually delivering good services. So we don't want to just stop at like helping our clients market well. We want to be able to still encourage and support, even if it's not the main thing we step in and do, but encourage and support really good selling, really good delivery, even the development of their business with new value, new offerings, new products. And so I think this is the first series we've done in the last year of having these episodes where we are talking directly about, we understand the power of sales and that there are certain things that help you succeed. And so I think my first question, because I've never had a direct like where sales was in my title, but in Radio Shack, and then even from there, I don't know if it was because you were selling electronics and even phones, but you got into the phone industry and have worked for AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, all the major players.
Yeah.
I need a new cell phone this week. We need to go shop for that. That's on our calendar. But what has changed in as far as in sales that was a big part of back then that looks different now? Would you say that certain things have changed?
I think probably the biggest thing that's changed is the access that people have, right? So back then, people would come in and you were literally viewed as the expert on all things, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't have the answer, then nobody had the answer. And so with the internet, like back then, really starting to launch and people being able to say, there's 1,500 reviews on this phone, or there's, this review on this product. And nowadays, people, when they come in to a situation like that, especially in retail, a lot of times they've already made up their mind, right? Like they're not asking questions so much anymore.
In the same way, yeah.
Yeah, that has definitely changed. But I think the overall principle of like having that relationship, having just a conversation with someone, and sometimes like what I do now, sometimes I tell people, hey, this isn't the right choice. Like we should keep looking, But back then, I remember people would literally come in and say, what do you think I should do. And so a lot of that's changed, and that's good. I think information is great, and the more you have of it, the better a decision you can make. But that's probably the biggest thing I would say has changed in the process. But I think forever you will see every good salesperson, and I'm not just talking about retail, I'm talking about whether you're selling cars or houses or whatever widget it may be, it's all about relationship. You know, that's never going to change. And the second that you decide that your commission or your paycheck is more important than the person standing in front of you, you're not going to have a job. You know, that's just the facts.
Yeah. So, you know, what else has stayed the same? I mean, technology has changed. You kind of mentioned that, but I don't know, like even reaching currently in your current job, how does sales play a role as far as communicating with clients or even getting someone to choose to be your client?
Yeah.
I mean, what are sales techniques you use now that maybe are the same or different than before?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a valid question. I think what stayed the same and what I realized, you know, I kind of said what's changed is people came in and they automatically assumed you were the expert standing in front of them. I think what's also stayed the same is even though we have all of that information, people still want to be told yes. They want to be told it's okay to buy this. This is the right choice to make. Yeah, that whole validation thing. So, you know, a lot of what I do today, you know, is making sure that, you know, people are making the right choice for the long term. Just because if I don't, right, if I'm, again, just chasing that commission check or you know, the paycheck, it's going to blow back on me, right? If they make the wrong decision and they have buyer's remorse, who are they going to blame, right? Who's that going to blow back on? That's going to be me. And so that, I think, is always going to stay the same, is putting the client first, saying, hey, this is a great decision, or, you know what, man, there's probably some other things we should look at, you know? Now, there are other things about the sales process that will remain the same. You know, I think a huge thing is communication, right? So we live in an information world, and it's really difficult to, you know, just always be on the phone. But at the same time, it's necessary. So, like, you know,
be
this.
accessible. At least,
Yeah, you got to be accessible. And so I think that's something that I do really well. And I think any good real estate agent, any good salesperson, and I've had people write it in reviews about me, like he was super fast to communicate. Like anytime I needed him, you know, he was there to help me. And I think that's what people want, whether they're buying a $20 trinket or $1 million house. Like, it's just communicate, right?
Yeah.
It's communicate with me and help me get to the end goal.
Yeah, and you said what you said about, you know, they might not automatically assume you or just anyone is the expert anymore, but once you can establish your authority, your trust, all of that, it's like they say about the cost of trying to earn a bunch of new clients or having a returning customer is
Very
gold.
true.
And if they trust you, if you've delighted them, you know, with your service, then that's like a ripple effect for you.
Yep.
But you also just said something that I was thinking about bringing up about when we talked about expert and authority, the whole reviews thing. I feel like whether it's marketing or sales, the power of like testimony or other people, like feedback, someone else referring you, does that play a pretty big role in what you do?
Oh, it absolutely does. You know, I think we joked about it not that long ago. There was, and this was like a news article from, I don't know, the 50s or 60s, where a guy was advertising in the paper, like, you know, I'm a trusted car sales guy, right? And he had like a little goofy cartoon photo of himself and stuff. The way that we social proof today is so different, right? And everybody's looking for someone they can trust. And if you don't have, you know, this goes all the way back to treat your clients like you want to be treated in that situation. If you can do that through and through, you will never starve as a salesperson. You have to not look at the money involved or, you know, your own feelings or opinions, and you just have to say, look, how do I want to be treated right now? You know, and you know, I've sold $15,000 houses. I've sold $750,000 houses. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is, do my clients at the end of all of that, are they satisfied? And so it's one of those things about reviews. If you do your job right, they will review you. They will refer you. You just have to be consistent through that whole process. But yeah, reviews are huge. I mean, if you're not getting like 5-star reviews in today's world,
you're probably out.
Yeah, people aren't going to use you.
You were just saying about selling to your current clients. It almost feels like you have 3 phases of selling. So you sell to your clients that this home is good for them. If you feel like you understand their needs enough, you sell them like this is probably it, or you even sell them on this is not it.
Yeah.
But then
a lot of times actually.
And then even like once you are starting to negotiate on behalf of that client, you're kind of selling a little to try to figure out the best way to write the offer and everything. But previous to all of that, when a client comes to you, whether it's they heard about you and they call you, or you know you've advertised on Zillow, or you're reviewed well on Zillow, so somebody finds you there. You've talked to me before about some of those first few minutes of interaction and what you do, and it helps to help you close them as a client. So can you describe a little about that? Because I have no experience.
Yeah, so
that phone call
that's an interesting situation. So you kind of brought up earlier, so my first sales job was at Radio Shack, but after that, I was headhunted by Sprint. It was in person again. After that, I went on to do over the phone sales. So completely different, right? It sounds the same. It's still sales, but it's totally different. And so when you learn sales over the phone, you learn to pick up on certain things. And so all of my combined experience taught me several things. And so when I'm having that like first client interaction over the phone, I'm picking up like, hey, you know, is this person particular about certain things? Are they nonchalant about other things? Are they actually ready to buy, or are they just, you know, hey, just checking things out, right? There's a lot of people, regardless of what the end product is, they're just trying to get information, right? And so always my goal is to set that first appointment. Now for different industries it's different, but end goal should always be for somebody, set the appointment, right? Get in front of someone. My success rate once I've met someone is insanely high. The problem is sometimes people don't want to meet right away. And so that becomes a situation where you have to follow up with them via text message. Today, you know, I know we use email for a lot of purposes, but most people don't want an email. Sometimes I'll write handwritten cards if I know their address. I'm asking a lot of questions in that first initial call about, you know, what are you looking for, right? What's your budget? Who all is involved? What's your current living situation? There's a lot of questions I ask so I can properly understand where they're at today and where they want to be in the next month or two. You know, just a lot of questions. And I think to that point, and I know I'm talking a lot.
You're fine.
I'm very guilty of that. Something I've really had to consciously make myself aware of on a phone call is ask a question and then shut up. Like there's so many times I can remember where I just kept talking. But if you ask someone, you absolutely do. But if you just ask a good open-ended question, again, open-ended questions are best in sales, and then be quiet, they'll tell you their life story,
and then
right?
You've made the connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, maybe they make a joke about their kids or their grandkids or their friend or something, and you can kind of make a relatable point. You know, you can kind of seal that deal, but I think for me, that's probably my biggest downfall is sometimes I can talk too much, and you know, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing is just listening to what they need.
Yeah, and I can verify. I feel like on the phone, you know how to kind of talk and get in, and you're quick with it where you're like, oh, you can discern where they're at in the journey, and then when you get off the phone, within seconds the text message goes to them with you're like, I'm going to send you my digital business card. You've got it all queued up. I feel like you've learned that really well. Another thing I will say that I think you're great at, I'm just going to brag on my husband because that is supposed to be a key to marriage, I think.
There's not much to brag about. Let's just be honest.
But you also are really good. Well, it translates to so many things. Like if you're an artist or, any type of artisan or skill, musician, football, when they say watch the tapes, like you've reviewed your calls, like especially Zillow, those calls are recorded. I've seen you like go back and review those notes with a client just to understand it better and to improve. And I think that's a really cool method that shows you care about your craft. You care about people too, but caring about the craft of business and sales. And so that's why I had you on our show today.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's, even Tiger Woods, right? This is a guy, I mean,
you've been golfing more lately, so
bring
out Tiger Woods.
But if you don't know who Tiger Woods is, crawl out from under that rock.
He's got his approval rating is like
his approval rate, sure, but
his commitment to craft,
it's undisputed. Yeah. This guy, he's the best iron striker in the world. But if you listen to him, he literally would watch tapes of himself. He would go out and just look and look and look and look and look. I think anybody that's in sales or really any industry, if you're not asking yourself, how can I be better at this? Now, we're never going to be perfect, right? But how can I be better in what I'm doing, and review, how did that conversation go? Did I say things I shouldn't have, or did I not say something I should have? You got to ask yourself that question. And I think it's really important to have that like self-reflection of, that was a great transaction because, or that was a not great transaction because. And when you can start to pinpoint that and kind of like fly between those goalposts, you can be extremely successful. But I do know one thing again, and I know I'm harping on it, the biggest thing in my industry, and I think sales in general, is keep the client first. If you're not doing that, you're just never going to hit any goal you set. It doesn't matter if it's selling 50 houses a year or it's selling whatever. You got to keep the client first.
I agree.
Yeah.
So if you want that to be your experience, if you're looking for a house, this guy, and
notice I didn't plug myself.
And I'm not just saying it because I'm his husband, I'm your wife, or that when you make money, it's part of our household. I am not just saying that. Like a homepage is your brokerage, really great one.
Carrie King and George Barrett.
You love what you do, and client first, And so, anything else you want to say for the camera or for me?
I love you. You're beautiful. I appreciate you letting me interview with you.
We are supposed to ask, even though we don't have it here, what is your favorite coffee?
Ooh. Are we talking like local brewery or just like
both?
Cold bean?
You can say local shop, but your favorite drink as well, which I know.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Heine Brothers. I wish I could say it was you, but it's Quill's Coffee, hands down.
We like a lot of them, but Quill's is probably one of the top.
Quill's is my jam. Corey over in St. Matthews, what's up, brother? That's definitely my local. If we're talking about just like whole bean, brew it at the house, that's probably going to be Black Rifle. So, but that's just like black coffee, right? Yeah, just like drip. Yeah. But if we're talking espresso, it's Lavazza.
Well, your drink of choice is always either a cappuccino or iced coffee with our espresso that we like, the Italian. So. I feel you. I haven't even said that on a Squad Talk yet, but that's my favorite as well. And real quick, because you tuned in to the end, I just want to remind you as well that we truly are, we want to be an asset and an ally to you and your business for marketing and sales, like for true business growth. We want to be here for you if we can in some way or the other. We actually have a content offer we've just recently put out there, and it's very fitting with our current series, your 5-step process to better prospecting. So you can download this off our website. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for talking with me. See you later at home. I'm just kidding. And we'll see you guys later too for our next episode. Thanks.